So I'm posting another video this time to keep a record. I find this the most convenient way for me to keep a record of the continuing alienation that I'm experiencing with my children. I'm hoping to use this as court evidence again. I've been filling out the forms again and again and submitting them to the district attorney. Every time one of my video chats is cut short, I fill out a form and send it to the district attorney. I don't know that anybody's ever going to read them or look at them. So therefore, I am also making these videos just to keep a record of what's gone on. And so today, during the video chat, I told the kids that I was over in Pearl City. I know they live somewhere in Pearl Harbor. I don't know their actual address. I don't care to know. I'm not going to violate the restraining order. I don't care to violate the restraining order. I just want to be in my kids' lives legally and, ethically and in every way that's going to benefit them for all the psychological reasons that it benefits a child to have their biological parent in their life, especially for their own self-confidence and for their own self-esteem. It's super vital that they know that their parents love them and care about them. And when one of the parents is kept from seeing them, children suffer, devastating self-esteem and self-confidence issues. And I'm seeing that a little bit just over the video chat in both the kids. And so I want to document that as well, too, because this abuse that they're suffering is real, and it has tangible effects that I've noticed just even in the limited time that I get to video chat with them. So today's video chat, I told them, yeah, I'm right by your house. I'm here in Pearl City. And and then Grace immediately started trying to tell me where they actually lived, and then I had to kind of shout over her during the video chat because I don't want her to tell me where they actually live, because I don't actually want to know, because I don't want to, even have anybody suspect that I could even potentially be violating the restraining order. I'm being very careful not to violate the restraining order by all means possible. And then Everett came over and screamed, I hate you, or something to me, because, he's lashing out because he's really disappointed that he didn't get to see me during the Christmas visitation. He'd been talking about it with me for months, and we were both excited about it for months and months and months. And once again, some kind of red tape detail kept him from being able to see his dad at Christmas time, just like last year. Just, some random detail that, didn't actually have anything to do with whether he was going to be safe or cared for or loved. And, it's just the other party has gone to every length that they can to make sure that I don't get to see my kids. And it's gone on now for almost 2 years. This February, it will be 2 years now that I've been limited from my children's lives by all means possible. And it's just absolutely egregious and atrocious. And it's a horrendous form of child abuse. And both of my children have been suffering this child abuse now for almost 2 years. And it's really crazy. So today, I was very careful to try and, shout down Grace, just so she didn't tell me any more details about where they lived, because I don't want to know, and I don't want to be in violation of the restraining order. I don't even want people to think that's a possibility I could be in violation of the restraining order. And then Everett's, there was obviously a lot of tension during that moment, and Everett sensed that tension, and I think he got upset, and so he screamed, "I hate you," or something. I couldn't really hear him. It was there was a lot of chaos. And then I said, I haven't said anything inappropriate. I'm not asking where they live. I don't want to know. I just wanted to have the video chat. That's the only interaction I get with my kids right now is the video chats. And so I'm trying to make absolutely the most use of them that I can. It's a 20-minute video chat that the court order states that I'm supposed to get with the kids, and I'm trying to get the full 20 minutes. And so I'm just trying to do everything I can to get the full 20 minutes. I'm trying not to say anything inappropriate. I'm trying not to allow the kids to say anything inappropriate. I'm trying to keep it, entertaining and upbeat, and try to incorporate some educational elements if possible. And so today, I mean, there was a lot of, a lot of stress and problems, none of which are my fault. I didn't create this situation. None of this situation is my fault. I've been trying to do everything right by the book in every way for 2 years now. And despite that, I've been, stymied from being a parent for 2 solid years. So, and then, so then I'm, saying loudly, hey, I didn't say anything inappropriate. I just want to have the video chat. And then their new stepdad came over and hung up on me with just slightly over 10 minutes. So now I'm getting less than half of the court ordered video chat that I'm ordered. So, so I'm just keeping a record of that, because this is, again, a violation of my children's rights to be able to have a relationship with their father. And this is a violation of my rights to be able to have a relationship with my children. And I'm documenting it. And, I know the opposing side is watching this. I know that the opposing counsel is watching this. I know they're going to try and find little things that maybe I said wrong here or there and try and use that against me in a court of law. And, you know, uh, good luck, because the evidence at this point for the alienation and the abuse of my two children, and the egregious torture that all three of us have been put under, Everett, Grace, and me, is, it's absolutely obvious at this point. We're talking 2 years. I'm a guy with no criminal record of any kind. Nothing. I don't even have traffic tickets. And yet, the other side has successfully kept me from being able to see my children now almost for the entirety of the last 2 years, with no evidence of malfeasance or wrongdoing or anything. And I'm just going to continue to document it. I don't know what else to do. We are supposed to have a visit on January 7th. I'm very excited about that. The kids are very excited about that. I'm hopeful that we can somehow get the video chats to continue to be successful as they have been in the past. But the kids are really stressed out. They want to see their dad. They miss their dad. I'm stressed out. I want to see my kids. And the other side is stressed out because they're realizing that I'm going to have a relationship with my kids regardless of the alienation. And so I don't know what to do at this point. I do know what to do. I just got to keep on trying to follow the rules and to do everything that I can to prove to my kids that I'm a good dad, just trying to be in their lives in a positive way. And I'm going to keep doing that. But it's really frustrating, like, when you're limited to 1 hour a week with your kids. 3 20-minute video chats is 1 hour. And when you're limited to 1 hour a week with your kids, and then somebody who's not even related to you or your kids comes over and hangs up on you in the middle of the chat when you've said nothing inappropriate, you've done nothing wrong, it's pretty egregious. And then I got a text later saying they filed a police report because I said I was near their house. I was just telling them that I'm in the city where they live so that they know that their dad's trying to see them. And I'm never going to stop trying to tell the kids that their dad's trying to see them, ever, because it's so important to their psychological well-being for them to know that their dad loves them and is trying to see them. And I'm never going to stop doing that. I'm never going to stop telling them how much I love them and that I want to be in their lives, because I do love them and I do want to be in their lives. And it's important for them to know that for their own psychological well-being. So, I don't know if they're trying to claim it was like some kind of threat or something for me to say that I was, right by their house. Obviously wasn't actually right by their house. I was in the same city as them, not even remotely near their house. From what I understand, they live on the military base. I have not driven on a military base since I was in like junior high or something. I mean, it's been a long time. No, I had that one job where I did work on a military base for a little bit, but I mean, we're talking 20 years ago since I've been on a military base. I am anti-military. I am anti-war. I am anti-military industrial complex. I do not support any of it. I will not drive on the military base. I will not work for military contractors. I've turned down several different job offers for military IT stuff because I'm ethically opposed to it in every way. And so, I mean, it's just the whole thing is just so ludicrous. It's just so ludicrous. I've never threatened anybody. I've never harmed anybody. I've never threatened to harm anybody. And yet I'm still under this insane microscope of like having a restraining order for my own children, and with no evidence that that's required. And bear in mind that there was actually some evidence of violence against me personally. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that, given the restraining order, but there was violence committed here, but I was the victim. So, and yet I'm the one who can't see my kids. I'm the one who's under a restraining order. It's just, there's something horribly wrong with our family law system. I mean, everybody knows there's millions of alienated parents across this country, mostly dads, but there's also some moms too. Now that I've been in it for so long, I've been reaching out and joining groups and doing research and trying to help people who are making documentaries about parental alienation and everything else. And it's just I'm so much more familiar with this process and what it looks like and the results of this process, which are, the results are pretty clear. Uh, Children who have been alienated from a parent generally hate the parent that they've been alienated from because that parent isn't there. So therefore, they're angry at the parent who's not there. Now, here's the thing. When they get older, they start to look back and realize, okay, was that parent trying to be there for me? Was that parent, on drugs? Was that parent in prison? They kind of go through like a list of things to try and figure out why that parent wasn't there. And if there is no good reason for that parent not to have been there, and in fact, if all the evidence shows that that parent was trying to be there, generally what happens is then the children begin to despise the alienator, the one who kept the other parent from the children. That happens in like 90% of these cases. I've talked to so many people who said, oh yeah, I lived with my dad growing up and I wasn't allowed to see my mom. And then, when I was 10 or 11, I went to, I got to choose and I went to go live with my mom, and I haven't talked to my dad since. That's something I've heard numerous times, and I've heard it both ways, whether it's the mom or the dad, whoever's doing the alienation. I've heard so many times where when the kids get older and realize who's to blame in this situation, they generally, especially if the other parent's still there persistently trying to be a parent at, by all means necessary, which I certainly have been doing, the kids usually figure it out pretty quick and they know, oh, wait a minute, our dad or our mom, whoever's being alienated, never did anything wrong. They never harmed anybody. They never threatened anybody. They have no criminal record. And yet still the alienating parent hasn't let us see that parent. So they know right away who's to blame. And generally that does not bode well for the long-term relationship of the alienating parent. That's just the literature, the psychology of it. I read a lot of psychological reports and studies, and also anecdotally, I've talked with a lot of adults who were alienated as a child at one point or another from one of their parents. I mean, it's not an uncommon thing. It happens all the time in this country. There's millions of alienated parents and children right now, and there have been for decades and decades and decades, especially because our family law system uh, economically incentivizes alienation, by saying that, if you have no visitation of the child, then you have to pay the maximum child support. So that economically incentivizes uh, malfeasant parents to alienate the other parent so that they can collect the maximum amount of child support, which is, it's absolutely criminal that that's the way the system is set up. It's absolutely criminal the way so many alienating parents take advantage of that and then alienate the other parent. And it's absolutely criminal the way that in the bulk of in these scenarios, it happens to men. It is absolutely wrong, and sexist and cruel and ultimately very harmful for the children and for the parents. I mean, so many alienated parents end up committing suicide or end up with drug or alcohol abuse problems. And I mean, and I, you know, don't have any of that going on. I have suffered, having the children ripped out of my lives for, like they were 2 years ago. I have suffered PTSD from it. I mean, I've been clinically diagnosed with PTSD, and I can't argue with that diagnosis. I do have PTSD. Having your children ripped out of your life is very painful, very, very harmful. And I can see why so many people turn to drugs and alcohol and etc. And suicide in extreme cases too. But I'm not going to do any of that. I don't do any drugs. I don't, well, I drink a lot of coffee. and, uh, and actually I've had too much coffee today, which is why I'm probably rattling on in this video. But, I was at a coffee shop, and they were closing, and he goes, "Oh, we just got a little bit of coffee left. Do you want?" And I'd already had a cup, and he goes, "Do you want the rest of the coffee?" And I said, "Sure." And he poured me a full large to go coffee. So now I've had like 3 cups of coffee, and I'm definitely, I mean, I should be asleep by all rights right now, but I just, it's so devastating hearing my own child scream at me on the video chat, and I know why they're lashing out. I mean, I've read the studies, I've looked at all the reports, I understand this behavior, and I know where it's coming from, and I know why it's happening. And honestly, because I read so many studies and psychological reports, I've been expecting it. And that's why I've been so actively trying to get any kind of reasonable visitation, because I knew that this was one of the inevitable outcomes. The kids lashing out at the parent who had been alienated, me in this case, and I was trying to avoid that by any way that I could. And I've just been thwarted time and time and time again. And I'm in Hawaii now. We've got a visitation set up for January 7th. And I am going to be there, and I am not going to violate any kind of restraining order, or I'm following all the rules. I filled out all the paperwork. I have the cash for the visitation on hand, which has been tough. Economically, it's been really tough to quit all my jobs. I was doing very well in Oregon. To quit all my jobs and then like go struggle to start over again in Encinitas was a huge economic burden. Then to just get absolutely destroyed in the court system with lawyers' fees and court dates and and all that time off of work, and then to be fired from multiple jobs because child support services comes after the accounting department, and the job's like, "Listen, that's extra paperwork for us. We don't want to deal with it. Sorry, we're just going to let you go." That happened to me at a couple of different high-paying jobs already. I have a feeling it's going to happen to me again in the future, because I mean, it's just the way the system is set up is just so cockamamie. It's just absolutely insane. And it's so destructive to the children. It's so destructive to the parents. It's so destructive to society as a whole. A lot of these kids who grow up without a dad, who grow up without a mom, they end up abusing drugs and alcohol. They end up in abusive romantic relationships. They end up in situations that could lead to violence, or jail time, or whatever. It's so awful, and it'd be so easy to avoid. Just give everybody 50-50 custody, unless there's direct tangible evidence of like serious abuse to the child. Everybody should just immediately be granted 50-50 custody, period. If that happened, and if the child support was, child support shouldn't exist at all. It just shouldn't exist at all, because both parents should be actively involved in the child's life and actively paying for the things that the child needs: food, housing, clothing, and if one of the parents can pay more for housing or clothing or whatever, the kid's going to know that. It shouldn't be like this kind of thing where it's like, oh, one parent can't afford it as much as the other parent, so so we're going to give that other parent more visitation, and then further economically burden them by awarding this insane child support payment. It's like, it's nuts. Here I am. I've moved now 3 states now. I've chased my ex and my children across 3 states trying to get some kind of reasonable visitation, trying to let my kids know how much I love them and care about them. And I mean, the economic burden that's placed on me is it's tremendous, absolutely tremendous. I mean, it has cost me everything. It has cost me cars and houses and computers and uh, work opportunities and bandmates and contracts and jobs. I mean, it's cost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, this process. And then on top of that, here I am being alienated from my own children. And on top of that, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to, award the maximum child support for him to pay as well on top of that. And it's like, are you kidding me? I've already spent $200,000 roughly. I mean, I'm estimating. I haven't kept perfect records. It hasn't been my focus. I don't care about money. I care about the psychological well-being of my children. That's been my motive this whole time. But if I do sit down and start adding it up, how much I've spent just trying to see my kids, how much I've spent moving from state to state, trying to just be in my kids' lives, it has been absolutely tremendous. I mean, so much money, so much money. It's crazy to think about, and and I've been struggling the whole time. But I switched to I've been microfasting. I've been microfasting for health reasons, but I also figured out that, hey, if you only eat one meal a day, you're saving a lot of money, And the simple fact is, I had a little extra weight. I had something to lose, so I decided to microfast anyway. And then once I got on the program, I actually really enjoyed it, not just physically but mentally as well. Microfasting is hugely beneficial for anybody who's got any kind of weight issue. I would say just don't eat until 4 p.m. Eat a huge meal at 4 p.m. and then don't eat for the rest of the day. But at 4 p.m. you can eat whatever you want. You can have steak. You can have not that I can afford steak, but but on the rare occasion when somebody else has ponied up to the bill, like a birthday or whatever, and bought me dinner. Yeah, I mean, I'll eat anything. I'll eat anything, cheese, whatever. It can be unhealthy food, because if you're only eating once a day, your body's like, yeah, let's take all that and use it all. And I mean, I'm in pretty good shape. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm in pretty damn good shape. I mean, I'm pretty ripped. I've been working out a lot. This microfasting physically for me has been very beneficial, and mentally too. You When you microfast, you end up with a little bit of clarity over hunger, a little bit of clarity over your digestion, a little bit of clarity over like when your body is telling you you're hungry and whether or not that means you should eat. Your body tells you you're hungry. That doesn't mean you should eat. If you're overweight and your body's telling you you're hungry, that's just your body saying, hey, this is when we normally eat. Let's go ahead and eat. Like, your body gets used to the schedule that you provide for it. And if you're overweight, you need to tell your body, no, we're not going to eat. I was definitely overweight. Not extremely. I wasn't like morbidly obese or anything, but I had a little extra weight. And since I started microfasting, it's just been, it's been a win-win physically and mentally too. The mental clarity that comes from not having your body constantly digesting food all the time is interesting. Now, I don't recommend microfasting for growing kids. I mean, growing kids should be eating all the time. They should be eating as much as they want to eat, whenever they want to eat. But once you're an adult and your metabolism slows down and you got a little extra weight, I'm sorry, but you should not be having breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You should just pick one and stick to that. And at that one, you could probably eat whatever you want, because your body's going to be in ketosis for most of the day anyway, and you're going to absorb most of those nutrients. I mean, I really dug down and tried to study human health. That's been my main focus. Since I had kids, my main focus has been to study human health, human psychology, human happiness, what it takes to be a healthy, happy individual. And it's just, all that research that I've done is like wasted, because all I get is 3 20-minute video chats per week. And it's just such a tragedy for my 2 kids. I mean, I did all the research on, uh, psychological development, because I was working at the time for an educational institution, and so I talked to the early childhood developments, and I got a sense of it from them, and then from there I went and actually read the actual studies on, PubMed, or whatever. um, lots of different resources, not just that, but even just magazine articles about it, whatever. I mean, just I really kind of tried to take a comprehensive approach and really study it, and and follow it too. That when I was when I was the primary caregiver of the kids, I mean, they were just blossoming so incredibly much because their environment was so positive. I mean, we were outdoors most of the day. We were eating, almost all organic fruits and vegetables. We would have some meat and some bread as well, and some cheese too. I wasn't real strict about, eliminating, dairy and meat and stuff. In fact, I encouraged small amounts of that, and bread as well. But it was, by far, by weight, I think they were getting more fruits and vegetables than anything. And most of the fruits and vegetables were either we were growing ourselves, or we were buying from a local source at the local all organic co-op, where I had a relationship because I was doing IT for them too. So we were, we were getting the benefits of that business relationship as well. And um, and even the meat that we were getting was like locally sourced, fresh hunted elk, fresh caught fish and crab. And it was just, I mean, we couldn't have been eating better there, and being outdoors all day and really doing productive things that were positive, like, building a chicken coop, building a well house, growing a garden, repairing fences, just, doing stuff with our hands that was positive, where they could see the results of their own work. That outdoors, that is the best thing you can do for kids, according to all the research that I've read. So if you can get your kids outdoors, uh, doing something where they can see the fruit of their labors, there's just nothing better for them psychologically. There's nothing better for them physically. There's nothing better for them on any level than that. So gardening is an easy one. Just, grow a garden with your kids. You grow a garden in the spring, grow a garden in the summer, grow a garden in the winter. Uh, in the off months, if you live in a place where you can't grow a garden, be doing other things pursuant to that, making compost, collecting seeds, tilling the soil, I mean, whatever you can do, if you're doing that kind of stuff with your kids, A, they're going to eat really well, and that's going to be great. And B, they're going to be just a lot better off if you're doing something productive like that. Hi.